number one, making the move to a different type of living?
So when the first person wanted to buy one, I was like, wow, like I could do this as a living.
You had a creative side to you prior to doing the art though.
I love the bold colors. It creates a reaction for sure. But when somebody connects with it, it takes it to a completely different level.
Spending so much time on it and then realizing they don't like it.
You know, we get such the rough stuff on, our social media platforms. And then art kind of brings that all together.
Hello everyone, my name is Nadine and welcome to Design Discussions with Nadine, and today I have Erin Mulvany with Erin Mulvany Art as a guest today. This is going to be a fun one. I'm so excited to talk to you. We got to know each other a bit when we had lunch some time ago.
Amazing conversation.
Yes.
So yeah.
So I'm happy to have you talk about, and we're going to show some of your art so everybody can see the amazing work that you do.
Thank you so much.
So you've been at this for about 7 years now.
7 years, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How did you get into doing what you're doing as far as the art is concerned? Like, how did it start?
I came into this super organically. We ended up, so there's kind of two sides to this. We had a house. I wanted to do a really cool room for my kids. We did a surf shack. So, it was awesome. We had a tiki hut, like the whole 9 yards, right?
So cool.
And I looked at this picture and I'm like, I really want to do waves and this cool like flower band that goes across it and just have some fun with it. And I did it, and it turned out really well, and it felt amazing. But there was nothing that kind of came out of that except for the fact that I knew that I could maybe look at something and paint it and kind of have some fun with it and whatever else. But it wasn't until we ended up moving into our second house where I really wanted some original art. Couldn't afford it. And so I'm like, let's just give this a go. Got my first canvas, tried to be a little bit more like, ooh, let me kind of follow this type of pattern or style. Quickly realized that was, I don't follow the rules in that department, and kind of went off the grid, and it was amazing. Not that the work was amazing.
Well, but I think with art, that's the thing. It's interpretation, and it's not supposed to be something specific, right?
Well, and I think that's the appeal to it. For me, I'm a bit of a wild child by nature. So when it comes to creating, I didn't want to have to follow all of these rules necessarily. So I started to create, and it started to kind of evolve. And what I felt on the side of the emotional side, as I tell everybody, it's like journaling. It's like a visual journal for me. So I was surprised with how much came out on that canvas and how connected I was with it. And so when the first person wanted to buy one, I was like, wow, like I could do this as a living. It was insane to me.
Yeah,
insane.
I'm sure that was surprising, shocking, and
it was incredible.
You were happy about it.
Oh my gosh, so happy.
You think, well, somebody actually likes what I'm doing. That's good.
And
That's
to know
great.
that somebody connected with it, that was the whole thing, is that I created something, and then you had people that started to connect to that, and it blew me away. It was such an incredible feeling to have somebody look at it and just really have that personal connection with it.
Well, when I saw your Instagram for the first time, it really just made me happy to see a lot of the art that I was seeing that you were posting was bright, happy, and I was just like, oh, that's amazing. And so that was one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I was like, it's beautiful art. So I understand that feeling of a connection when you see something.
That's such a huge compliment. It's when you hear somebody say that, it just, I'm going to do this no matter what, because it feels so good for me to do it. But when somebody connects with it, it takes it to a completely different level. And I tend to paint really bold and wild. I think I paint kind of like my personality is. It's what I normally gravitate towards, unless it's my own house. I think in my own home, my brain needs to calm down a bit. So I tend to paint a little bit more neutral. But I love the bold colors. It creates a reaction for sure.
And as far as an artist, I'm sure a lot of people ask this question. What is your inspiration, or what inspires you to paint?
I mean, it's so cliche when I say everything, but this is kind of how I look at it. If I take a moment to breathe in this big world that we live in, and I take a moment to feel gratitude and to just be calm, it opens your eyes to so much beauty around you, not only in, nature or texture or color, but in humans. We get such the rough stuff on, our social media platforms. So when you take that moment to just breathe in a second and be grateful, it's just beautiful what you see. That is all inspiring to me.
I love that answer. That's great.
It's inspiring. It really is.
Let's talk a little bit about music. So you tend to listen to a certain type of music when you paint.
Yes.
It kind of brings out a calm in you, you said, and you like this.
It's just this really weird vibe that I get. And I hate to say weird like it's something awful. It's almost spiritual in a way. So, I love to listen to jazz when I'm cooking. I love to go to heavy metal concerts with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm painting, I do Kings of Leon radio, kind of like Pandora style. I love it has this really good mixture. The tone is a little bit more calming for me. So I tend to just be really in my element listening to them. And they're one of my favorite bands.
Well,
too.
and getting back to the heavy metal thing, that was another connection that we made when we met, that we talked about what huge Metallica fans we are and
Yes.
concerts we've been to and everything. And I'm like, okay, for me as a contractor, I think that's pretty much in the rule book. You have to be a Metallica fan to be a contractor. But
and allow some steam to come out of
yeah,
there
exactly.
for sure, right?
But it was kind of surprised. I was shocked
Yeah.
that you were into that music too. So I was like, oh yes.
Oh
that's
yeah, I mean
great.
it's a huge deal for our family. Over the summer will be my 6th time to see them.
That's great.
I think my husband's like on his 20th or something, but who knows? Yeah, I mean it's a lot, but it's wonderful.
And who knows how long they're going to keep going.
Oh, I know, right? So it was bucket list for me, and I'm so happy I got to see them, and 6 times.
Yeah.
It's cherry on top for sure, right there. Yeah, it's amazing.
You work a lot with interior designers,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the importance of that. And as we know, interior designers use art in all of their work,
Yes.
for the most part. And you do custom pieces for people.
Absolutely.
So how do you work hand in hand with interior designers to bring their clients what they need and want?
So it kind of goes 2 ways for us. You'll have designers reach out that want to come in and look at your current work. There's a part of that to me that's really meaningful, because if they are bringing in their clients and they're connecting with a piece that's already finished, that is it's so important to me. It's not, custom is a little different. Custom is, we've got to kind of work together. We know that the colors are going to be different, right? So the color palette is open. Style's not. I'm always going to paint my style, but the color palette is what we focus on the most. So if you've got, most designers are creating spaces that are functional, thought-provoking, hopefully emotional in the best way possible. And then art kind of brings that all together, what that finished, objective is. So when you bring in a piece of art that your clients picked out that's already been done, they're in love. That's meaningful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So commission is a little bit, when you're commissioning a piece, it's a little bit more difficult. You kind of have to fine tune. I always send progress pics, although, I want them to be open-minded to the finish of what's going to happen, but to make sure that we're on the right track as far as your color palette. Obviously in design, that's so important. So if you've got a neutral palette and you want that boldness, we need to make sure those colors are on point. If you've got a bold palette and you want a more neutral, we have to make sure that our neutrals are doing what they need to do as well. So that's kind of where we're at on both of those sides of it. But I tend to like when a piece is picked out that's already done, because again, I know it's going into space. I know that they love it, and I know it's going to accomplish what it needs to.
Now, you told me a story when we met about a client that wanted, you had an art piece that was already out there,
Yes.
and they wanted to replicate it, right?
They wanted to use the same colors. So there's a palette that I use that sold really, really quickly, like a color palette that I use. And it's usually a lot of my pinks, black in there. People really gravitate to that color combination.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it brings up some emotion in people. And then there's like some blues and yellows thrown in there just so very calmly. Like it's not bold or, overstated. So when you have somebody that sees a painting that is already sold and they're in love with that, where we can kind of go is same kind of style, right? Because that's how I paint in general. But we have to fine tune the colors. So for that one, the first painting was, softer pinks. They were really on board of using the more neon kind of bold pinks. And it worked out really well. Everybody has their originals, but it had kind of the same vibe as far as colors. But every one that I do is an original. I want whoever buys it that they know there's nothing else.
It is an actual original and won't be replicated.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah. She just chowing away over here.
I know, and that's what I mean. Like, I got to keep her occupied, but she'll start dancing.
Oh, she's doing
a little dancing now. She's looking at you like, hey, what do you got for me?
She's great.
So I also want to ask you about your time that you spend. Is this something that you have a schedule?
Only scheduled if it's commission.
Okay.
So when somebody, hires me to commission a piece out, usually I put them on a time frame. Now, there is that creative part of you that, if you're going, it doesn't happen often, but if I'm not trusting myself enough and I'm second guessing myself, that can, force it to go a little bit longer, but I try to stay within a specific time frame. So then it's scheduled. If I'm just working on new pieces, I'm basically painting out of my house now, which is great because my pieces have such a process. They're super textured. So if you look at them, there's like sand and different textures I use in it. So it's great. I get to go in there, lay that first layer down, go out, do whatever I need to do, come back in. So it's a lot more of me just kind of feeling inspired, getting in there and working.
And there's a convenience to that too.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%.
Doing it out of your house and you can just jump in there whenever you feel the need
It's
to.
actually really, really nice. I had a studio at down over by the silos, and that was amazing. It was such an amazing place to just have all of my materials in one area. It was really inspiring, but I felt like I was much more scheduled. And I think part of the appeal of this is having that creative freedom.
Let's talk a little bit about the move that you're going to be making soon.
Yes.
So I know you mentioned that, and that's going to be a huge lifestyle change.
It is.
Right?
We are moving from the suburbs because we are going to be empty nesters. So we're moving into a high rise in Montrose in the Houston area. The only issue with this is a place to paint. So this is kind of where we're going through the motions right now of what we want to do, whether I want to get back into a studio or, the high rise itself is very inspirational.
I was just going to say that because number one, making the move to a different type of living, I'm sure is going to bring out something.
Oh my gosh,
right?
for sure.
I mean, it would be the same if somebody moved from a high rise to, a farm or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to have a different mindset, and I'm sure there's something that's going to come out of that from you.
Well, and I'm going to miss my kids so much that I'll probably have a little depression, and that will cause some painting to happen too. I tend to paint when I'm, emotional or feeling happy. All of those things create, that inspiration to paint. And it really is therapeutic. So I feel like it's going to be something I'll definitely need.
Yeah.
How we're going to go about that yet, I don't know. So I'll either be back into studio, or I'll pull up an easel and my canvas and look at that skyline and paint, put on my music, have a glass of champagne, and just go to work.
Or a Prosecco.
Prosecco, I mean.
Whatever you need.
Dos Equis dressed, anything. I'm easy to please on that.
That's really good.
So it's going to be such a change in lifestyle. So I'm sure with that change, you're probably going to see some different work from me that's going to come from that. Whether it be bold or neutral is kind of what's going on in my life at the time and what I need. I think when things get a little hectic in the world, I tend to paint a little bit more on the neutral side just to have that calming effect. And then, like one of my craziest paintings came during COVID. I had COVID, we were housebound forever, and I was losing it. I like to go outside and have the sun on my skin, all the things. And so it's one of my craziest paintings. It's called Play That Record on Repeat, and it's wild. It's wild.
I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy, girl.
So where can people see your art? On the Instagram?
On Instagram, my website. So it's all Erin Mulvany Art. Instagram is typically where I kind of go. I just got on TikTok. We'll see how that goes. I'd like to start showing a little bit more videos of the process and kind of let people in on that side of it. It's a really great process. And I think it also shows other people that I think we all get in our own heads about anything creative. You have everybody, I'm not creative. I can't do this. I can't do this. You'd be amazed at what you can do if you just start doing it. You just try it. You'd be amazed at what you can do. And so I think opening that up and letting people see my process and how I kind of get started.
And maybe talk about how you started.
Yes.
And let people see, But you had a creative side to you prior to doing the art, though.
1,000%.
For many years, you worked in design.
Many, 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 many years. Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
I would say over 20 years I was in the design industry in one way or another, whether it was working for builders, on their design team or branching out on my own. It's a huge passion, and I think it kind of goes both ways too. You see a lot of designers that when they give art a try, they actually are really, really, really good at it. So it's just being in that creative realm. It's something that I can't have, I have to have that in my life.
Yeah.
There is no, just an office job for me.
Yeah.
I would be miserable.
I can't see that.
No, never.
Can't see you doing a 9-to-5er.
Never.
Yeah, I get that.
I get that.
Yeah. And I hear a lot from interior designers that I talk to too, that they've always had some sort of, even if this is their second career,
yes,
there's always been some sort of thing that they've done even as a child with something creative.
Well, and I think that's what is so interesting about just how we're raised, what we go through, what we tell ourselves. We are so limiting to ourselves in so many ways in life. So, of course, there may be something that sparks your interest, but you've got that voice that says, there's no way I can do this. And what you can accomplish when that voice goes away and you're just kinder to yourself, it's amazing. It feels amazing. It's amazing. You stop worrying about what everybody else feels or thinks, and you just create. And it just comes with such joy and passion for me that it will be something I do for the rest of my life.
That's good. Get over the fear. People need to.
You have to. You have to get out of your own head.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's in the years that you've been doing this, you have a funny story or a horror story that we can talk about.
So I would say if you are going to have a horror story in this, it's more on the side of custom pieces. I think, you may talk to a lot of artists that, and a lot of us, you make money on custom artwork. So you can't deny it, but I am very picky about who I do work with. And there's a reason to that. It's just to try to limit the chaos. We have to connect. So I haven't had any horror stories really, just because I think on that side of it, I make sure that we are a really, really good fit for each other. It's like anything else, right? If you're working with a client, if you've got a designer that's working with their client, you guys have got to be a fit for each other.
Right.
And so for me, that has limited the chaos and what I've heard as artist horror stories. So I think that's kind of limited that for me, where I haven't had any main issues where I've, created a piece of art and somebody's like, I completely hate it and we got to start over. That I think would be a horror story.
Yeah, I think
for me.
so. Yeah, spending so much time on it and then realizing they don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and they everything out. I don't know if people realize that, but when you're creating a piece of art, everything is laid out on that canvas. It's every emotion. It's just got a really beautiful story to it. So I'm sure it's damaging to our egos too.
Oh, sure.
If somebody's like, I hate this piece altogether. But I think if you make sure that you're connected with who you're working with, it kind of saves you on that side.
So that's horror. What about funny? Anything?
Oh my gosh.
Do you have anything funny?
Funny. I mean, my life is just funny. My life is funny. Oh, yes. I did this custom piece and I sent the final, and it's not like super funny, but to me it was like, oh my gosh. I sent him a picture of it. Love it. Great. Whatever else. And when I finish a piece of art, it has a direction. So even though it's abstract art, there is a clear top of my painting and a clear bottom of the painting. And I know, right? So
She's
during
like,
that
sure.
process, you find out quickly kind of what feels right to you and what should be balanced and where it's at. Well, I took it to him and I had it signed and it was upside down. So I had to take it back, and like I said, it's not super funny, but it's like, oh my gosh, here I did all of this, take it to him, and it has a top of the painting and bottom of the painting. And I had flipped it upside down and signed it.
Well, did they know it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Absolutely. When you send it to them, they know.
They knew.
They knew, yeah.
Oh.
So funny, I mean, not like hilarious, but just in the aspect of art, it was a interesting story.
That is funny. That makes it even more abstract.
It sure does. My signature's upside down. That's how it should be.
Yeah,
It's all
exactly.
good. It's a new thing I'm working with right here.
Oh, she's about to start talking.
I know.
She's like, let me get in there.
There you
Be a
go.
real co-host.
Yes, exactly. Oh, thank you. You think you got what you need?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. How about you, Lily? You think so?
I think it went well.
Yeah.
I think it went well.
So yeah, thank you again. This was an amazing conversation. Thanks, Lily, again for being my little co-host. And until then, stay tuned for the next one. Bye.